Hey guys, tonight we are stepping away from the noise of the modern world. We are taking a journey back in time to streets that have been buried under dust and history for over 2,000 years. So, before we begin, dim the lights. The year is roughly 50 BC. If you were suddenly dropped into the center of ancient Rome, the first thing that would hit you wouldn't be the grand marble temples. It would be the noise and the smell. Rome wasn't just a city. It was an absolute explosion of human life. Over 1 million people packed tightly into narrow, winding streets. There were towering apartment blocks, noisy markets, smoke from blacksmith workshops, and enough foot traffic to make you feel completely lost in the crowd. But amidst all this chaos, you would notice something very familiar. You see, long before smartphones, Wi-Fi, or social media, the ancient Romans invented something we consider completely modern: the influencer. In a city of 1 million people, everyone wanted to be seen. Merchants wanted customers, lawyers wanted clients, and politicians wanted attention. The Roman Forum was their social media feed. They realized that simply doing a good job wasn't enough. People had to know you were doing a good job. Take Julius Caesar, for example. As a young man, he didn't just walk into a room. He made an entrance. He dressed impeccably. He practiced his speeches until they sounded completely effortless. Some of his rivals even joked that he spent too much time adjusting his hair. Imagine conquering nations, but still worrying about your hairstyle. Some human priorities, it seems, never really change. But while the elites were busy building their personal brands, what about the ordinary people? The craftsmen, the bakers, the laborers. Most of them lived in towering apartment buildings called insulae. These buildings were often 6 or 7 stories high, made of wood, and packed to the brim. But there was one major problem. They didn't have kitchens. Cooking inside a wooden apartment on the 5th floor was a recipe for absolute disaster. Fire was the greatest fear in ancient Rome. A single knocked-over oil lamp could burn down an entire neighborhood. So, ordinary Romans simply didn't cook at home. When they were hungry, they hit the streets. And this brings us to one of history's best-kept secrets. The ancient Romans invented fast food. Walking down a busy Roman street, you would find a thermopolium on almost every corner. These were the street food stands of the ancient world. You would walk up to an L-shaped stone counter, beautifully decorated with bright frescoes of chickens, geese, and dogs. This was their version of a menu. For a few bronze coins, a Roman worker could get a hot, ready-to-eat meal. The massive terracotta jars built into the counters held all sorts of comfort food: warm baked cheese, rich lentil stews, roasted pork, salted fish, and fresh bread. And to wash it down, wine, of course, but not just any wine. Often it was served warm, heavily spiced and sweetened with honey. The perfect comfort drink after a long day of physical labor. These places were loud, full of gossip, and bursting with life. They were the taverns and the drive-thrus of the ancient world merged into one. You would stand there, shoulder to shoulder with soldiers, merchants, and sailors, sharing a meal and escaping the cramped reality of your apartment. It's strange, isn't it? We look at ancient ruins and see cold stone, but those stones were once warm with cooking fires. They echoed with laughter, arguments, and the clinking of coins. 2,000 years have passed, yet we are still chasing the exact same things. A good reputation, a comfortable place to rest, and a hot meal at the end of a long day. The year is 60 BC. The sun is just beginning to set over Rome, turning the marble temples in the distance a soft shade of orange. But down here, in the narrow, winding alleys of the Subura district. The air is thick with dust and the smell of unwashed bodies. This is where we meet Marcus. He is tired. His sandals are covered in street mud, and his muscles ache from spending the last 10 hours lifting heavy clay pots down at the docks. As he walks, he tries to avoid being hit by the massive wooden carts that finally have permission to enter the city now that the sun is going down. Marcus's stomach grumbles loudly. He wants to go home, but his path takes him through the edge of the Roman Forum. Even now, in the evening, the place is buzzing. Ahead of him, Marcus sees a young, wealthy politician named Julius standing on the steps of a temple. Julius's toga is so brilliantly white, it almost glows in the fading light. He is handing out small loaves of bread and smiling warmly at everyone who passes by. Marcus takes a piece of bread. He knows exactly what is happening. In Rome, you couldn't just be great. You had to make sure every single person in the city knew you were great. Julius wasn't just giving away bread. He was buying loyalty, buying whispers in the market, buying a reputation. It was a massive, living social network, and reputation was the currency. Marcus shakes his head, impressed by the showmanship, and continues his walk home. He finally reaches his apartment building, an insula. It's a towering wooden structure, 5 stories high, and it leans slightly to the left. Marcus lives on the 4th floor. It's a tiny single room, freezing in the winter and suffocating in the summer. As he climbs the creaky wooden stairs, he doesn't smell anything cooking. That's because, in a wooden building packed with hundreds of people, lighting a fire is a death sentence. There are no kitchens here. One spilled oil lamp could burn down the entire block. So Marcus drops his heavy tool bag on his straw bed, turns around, and heads back down to the street. It's time for dinner. Just 2 streets over, he finds exactly what he needs: a thermopolium, the ancient Roman version of a fast food joint. The street corner is glowing with the warm light of oil lamps, and the smell of roasted meat and garlic fills the air. Marcus walks up to the beautiful L-shaped stone counter. The front is painted with bright, colorful pictures of ducks and vegetables, telling everyone who can't read exactly what's on the menu. The man behind the counter greets Marcus with a nod. Marcus drops 2 small bronze coins onto the stone counter. In return, the server scoops a thick, steaming ladle of lentil and sausage stew from a deep jar built directly into the counter. He hands Marcus the bowl, a piece of crusty artisan bread, and a small clay cup filled with hot spiced wine, sweetened with a drop of honey. Marcus stands in the street, shoulder to shoulder with other tired workers, blacksmiths, and even a few off-duty soldiers. They eat in comfortable silence, watching the stars slowly appear above the smog of the city. As the warm stew fills his stomach and the sweet wine relaxes his aching muscles, Marcus feels a moment of perfect peace. He doesn't care about the politicians in their bright white togas or the grand empires being built across the sea. Right now, he is just a man enjoying a hot meal at the end of a very long day. And as we leave Marcus resting in the glow of the street lamp, we realize that across 2,000 years, maybe human beings haven't changed that much at all. But while Marcus finishes his dinner in Rome, a very different kind of evening is beginning far across the Mediterranean. In the golden sands of Egypt, nightfall brings out creatures that are treated not as pets, but as gods. We will travel there right after this. The bustling streets of Rome are now thousands of miles away. We have drifted south, across the dark Mediterranean Sea, to a land built around a single, life-giving river, the Nile. The year is 1300 BC. We are in the grand city of Thebes. The brutal desert sun has finally dipped below the horizon, and a cool, much-needed breeze is blowing off the dark water of the river. This is Amos. He is a stone carver, and like the Roman worker we just left behind, Amos is exhausted. His hands are covered in white limestone dust from a long day of carving statues at the great temple. As he walks home through the quiet dirt roads of his neighborhood, the heat of the day slowly lifts from the earth. Amos arrives at his home. It's not a grand pyramid or a stone palace. Like almost everyone else in ancient Egypt, Amos lives in a house made of mud bricks, baked hard by the sun. It's simple, but perfectly designed to keep the burning heat out and the cool night air in. He steps inside, washes the dust from his face with water from a clay jug, and carefully wipes away the thick black makeup around his eyes. You see, in ancient Egypt, everyone, men, women, and children, wore dark kohl around their eyes. It wasn't just for beauty. The dark makeup absorbed the harsh glare of the sun and kept desert flies away. It was their ancient version of sunglasses. As Amos sits down on a woven reed mat to rest, a small shadow steps out from the corner of the room. It lets out a soft, demanding sound. Amos smiles. It is his cat. The Egyptians didn't really have a complicated name for them. They simply called them Mew, which literally translates to he who meows. But Mew is not just a pet. In Amos's eyes, this small, furry creature is a guardian. She is a living connection to Bastet, the fierce and protective goddess of the home. Cats kept venomous scorpions, snakes, and disease-carrying rats away from the grain storage. Because of this, they were deeply loved. And I mean, deeply loved. Amos breaks off a piece of cooked Nile fish from his dinner and gently places it on the floor for Mew. He watches her eat with absolute reverence. He knows that if anyone in Egypt were to ever harm a cat, even by accident, the punishment was often death. And if Mew were to peacefully pass away of old age, Amos and his entire family would shave off their eyebrows in a deep public display of mourning. They would carefully mummify her small body so she could follow them into the afterlife. That is how much a cat meant to an Egyptian family. But tonight, there is no mourning. There is only peace. Inside the mud brick house, it is still a bit too warm from the day's sun. So, Amos takes a light linen blanket and climbs the wooden ladder to the flat roof of his house. In ancient Egypt, the roof was the ultimate bedroom. He lies down under a massive canopy of glittering desert stars. The air is perfectly quiet, except for the distant sound of the Nile flowing gently toward the sea. A moment later, he feels a soft weight by his feet. Mew has followed him up to the roof. She curls into a tight circle, her soft purring matching the quiet rhythm of the night. Amos closes his eyes, feeling completely safe. He has a roof under the stars, the cool river breeze, and a tiny protector of the gods sleeping right by his side. We will leave Amos to his dreams now, because a very different kind of spectacle is waiting for us. Tomorrow, the sands of the arena will be swept clean. The crowds will gather. We are going to meet the ancient world's ultimate sports superstars.